Hello and welcome to Why Soul Works. Thanks for joining us tonight. I am Kendall Bird, Vice President of Brand here at Soul Naturals. We are so glad that you could come and spend a few minutes with us tonight while we talk about stress. Stress is something that we here at Soul Naturals have been focusing on a bit lately, mainly because it's a big problem. It's all around us, and we have some solutions for it. We're not the only people talking about stress either. You see it everywhere. People are on the news and everywhere on social media. You're seeing stress and how it affects us. And the more we hear about it, though, the more questions that arise. You know, for instance, what is stress? Is it bad? How does it affect us? Can we control it at all? Can we fix the effects that it has on our health, both emotionally and physically? And I know that we can with nutrition, but where do we start? All of these questions are giving me stress. So let's talk about it right now on Why Soul Works. Tonight we are lucky to have with us Jordan Peterson, who is the Executive Vice President here at Soul Naturals, and he is no stranger to stress, managing and running Soul day to day. And although he has a lot of stress in his life, he is always a cool cucumber. So he is here to help us understand by simplifying the subject of stress, helping us understand what it is and what we can do about it.
Thank you, Kendall.
So we have all these questions I asked. Why don't you help us understand the answers to these questions?
Let's do it. Yeah, thank you for having me on. I'm excited to be here with you guys. I guess I'm not a stranger to stress, having 6 kids, being married, enjoying all the stuff we have going on in our lives right now. I think the gray hair gives it away that there may be a little stress going on in my life as well. But today I'm really excited to talk with all of us about stress and how it affects us and what we can do about it. So to start this out, though, I wanted to make sure we really understood what stress even was and what types of stress are even out there. As I put this together, it was kind of funny because I was trying to find out what different types of stress there are, how many categories there are, and how they characterize it. And the interesting thing was, it was giving me stress even looking at that, because some people said, well, there's 2 main types of stress. No, there's 4 types. Actually, there's 7 types. There's 25 different types of stress. And I'm like, man, these categories are nuts. Tonight, we are just going to break it out into 2 main types of stress, which most people agree with and we can run with. And those are acute stress and then chronic stress. And then from there, there's lots of subcategories that can go all the way through this. We're going to dive into just a few of them for each, and then we can kind of find ourselves in all of those, I think. The first off is episodic stress and acute stress. Now, acute stress is kind of one of those ones that can be good or bad, depending on what we have going on in our lives. The episodic stress is for someone who kind of experiences stress on a regular basis based off of the different episodes they have going on in their lives. For instance, I think we all know that individual that is constantly late to everything. Every morning they wake up, they take too long getting ready, now they're running late, and they are stressed as they're trying to get to the office or wherever they're going on time. This is a great example of the episodic stress, or those that procrastinate till the very last minute. They're putting themselves in a position time and time and time again of just putting themselves in a stressful spot. This can be a really tricky spot to be in, and there's a cycle there that needs to be broken, right? The next type of stress under this acute stress is called eustress. Eustress I find really interesting because it depends on you how this stress goes. This is actually a good type of stress. Now think about jumping off of the high dive at the swimming pool, jumping out of an airplane, running a race, doing those happy things that give you that stressful moment, that kind of jolt of adrenaline, make you feel alive a little bit. Even those that like to have like a deadline and they're pushing really hard to hit a deadline and they kind of get that adrenaline rush from that. That all fits under the category of eustress. So as you can see under this acute stress, there's some good and bad that go along with it. You can have the good of, man, this was awesome. This is a fun thing to do. You get to hold hands with somebody the first time. You jump out of an airplane, you do some of those things, and boom, you have a little bit of that fun stress. The episodic stress can be everything from living a disorganized life to, you're slamming on the brakes because you're about to hit something. It kind of gives you that rush, and then it's over, right? Chronic stress, on the other hand, chronic stress is one that we would like to avoid if we can. This is stuff that lasts a long time. As before with acute stress, kind of short-lived here and there type of stress. The chronic stress, completely opposite, can last days, weeks, months, or even years. We have that traumatic stress that goes underneath that category. Things that are hard that you see, and maybe a natural disaster, a violent act, or some sort of a horrific injury that causes that stress to last a long time. When you think of traumatic stress, oftentimes we think of PTSD, post-traumatic stress syndrome. This is something that falls into this as well, under that traumatic stress. We also have distress underneath that. That's something that's just causing us to feel distressed all the time. And it makes it really tricky for us to manage and put ourselves in a position where we feel like we can flourish. So tonight we're going to kind of bundle everything underneath these two types of stress, the acute stress and the chronic stress. And we're hopefully going to learn more how we can handle this better, not only for ourselves, but to help others be able to as well. So the question then tonight is stress good or bad for you? And I think the answer can be found in the answer I got from my grandpa when I asked him, Grandpa, what kind of underwear do you wear? Do you prefer to wear the whitey-tighties or the boxer briefs? Well, depends is what he said, right? And it's true. With stress, it depends if it's good or bad for you. As we talked before, that chronic stress can be really tricky for you, lasts a long time, puts your body in a really tough spot. Good stress, on the other hand, can be very beneficial for you. In fact, we have Sophia Dabar. She's a stress management expert in the Mayo Clinic of Healthcare in London. And she says this: it's about the perception of stress and how your body is actually handling it. Chronic stress will impact every organ system in your body. You might feel anxiety, depression, and digestive issues, for example. If you go up in stress and then come back down, you have completed our cycle. There's no wear and tear, there's no damage, Dr. Dabar says. In fact, it's probably good for you because it leads to greater resilience. If you've ever overcome a stressful event in your life, processed it fully, and completed that cycle, then the next similar experience you have, you think, oh no, but I can do it. I think that's such a great way to look at stress. Oh no, I have to do this again, but I survived it last time. I have a stellar record for surviving everything I've gone through in my life up to this point. I can survive this again. And then your stress cycle actually can be completed quicker because you know you're going to be in a great spot. So when we talk about a stress cycle or a stress response, what are we talking about here? First of all, your cortisol activates. Cortisol is known as the stress hormone. It gets triggered and it floods our body, and we have all sorts of things that happen because of it, including your thinking becomes negative and you become hyper-focused on what is happening. I want you to think about it. You're laying in bed at night, it's dark, all the lights are off, and you hear something. And all of a sudden you have that rush of adrenaline. You don't think that, oh, it's just the floor creaking. No, that's too easy, right? Your thinking becomes negative and you think there is a monster that is going to come and get me right now. So what does your body do? Your heart, lungs, and muscles prepare you to fight or flight, right? Fight or run. Your heart rate, blood pressure, and breathing rate go up. Your muscles tense. You're ready to go. You're ready to take out that monster. Your digestive and reproduction systems aren't needed, so they slow down. As you were laying in bed, you were thinking to yourself, man, I probably had to use the bathroom one more time before I go to bed. All of a sudden you hear that noise, and there is no more thought of using that bathroom. In fact, you don't even need to go anymore. You're good to go, right? You'll see this at the same time. You're running late to the airport. You need to use the restroom before you get on the plane. But man, you got an adrenaline rush. You got to get there. You're hustling. You don't even think about it until you sit down on that plane. You relax again. You finish that stress cycle. And all of a sudden, oh my gosh, you need to use the restroom, right? You've all seen that. Your immune system also stops fighting invaders and goes into an inflammatory mode. It says, oh my heavens, we need to get ready for this. And this is characteristic of people. They'll get a puffy face. They'll often gain weight around the midsection, and they put themselves in a tough spot, and your body is just battling. I mean, it is going to battle inside. Everything's released, ready to go for that fight. And then all of a sudden your cat walks in and you realize, oh, it wasn't a monster after all, and you can complete that cycle. If you can't and you stay in that chronic stress cycle, that's where it becomes really bad for us. So what are manifestations or symptoms of chronic stress? You may recognize some of these in yourself. Number one, physical. Your aches and pains are there. Oftentimes your knees are really sore. Walking upstairs is hard. It hurts. You have high blood pressure. Your muscles are really tense. Oftentimes your neck is really sore. Your back is sore because of all those tight muscles in there. You have a racing heart for no reason. You'll be sitting there and all of a sudden some thoughts will trigger something and your heart is just beating out of your chest, which makes your chest hurt. It can become tight, right? You have low energy. You're in that fight cycle constantly. Your body's like, let's go, but it doesn't go anywhere. And so it just wears you out, right? And there's a lot of other things that go along with that. Emotionally, you're irritable. You have anxiety, you feelings of dread, right? That monster coming into your room is going to eat you, right? You have those negative thoughts, those feelings of dread, constantly worrying, and you're depressed. You have behavioral changes, social withdrawal. You don't want to be around people, right? You can be overly emotional with some of your responses. Some little things that don't usually bother you now are a big deal to you, and everything seems to be magnified. It can be a terrible situation to be in. You have sleep issues, right? Insomnia, sleepiness. Oftentimes with high cortisol levels, you have a hard time sleeping all night. Oftentimes you wake up around that 2 o'clock when the circadian rhythm's going. You wake up around 2 o'clock. Your mind is racing. You're thinking about everything that happened yesterday, today, and will ever happen again in the future. It's hard to sleep, and even if you do sleep, you wake up the next day, you're still tired, you're worn out, you can't figure yourself out. You swear you got enough sleep, but man, you were just tired all the time. Your appetite changes. You're eating too much, you're craving sugary foods, carbohydrates, you're eating all the wrong things, or man, you just don't feel like eating at all, and you just feel off, which only exacerbates the feeling of low energy. You're tired, your body's not functioning right, it doesn't have any fuel. Sexual dysfunction, loss of interest, or being unable to enjoy sex, right? That just goes right out the window. And that puts us in a tough spot as well in our relationships. We also have digestive issues, as mentioned before. Constipation or diarrhea can happen as well. Sometimes you get plugged up, nothing's coming out, no trains are leaving the station. Other times the floodgates open up, and watch out. Stress diarrhea is a thing, and it can be miserable for those that experience it as well. So it just puts us in a really tough spot. Our life, as you can see all these things, life is hard when we're under these chronic stress symptoms and we're seeing it all through our bodies and seeing it around people around us. It just makes it really hard to have fun and enjoy our lives. So how many people are experiencing this chronic stress that we've talked about? This is what's so surprising to me. And if you talk to people, it may not be as surprising, because one thing that you talk about when you ask somebody how are they doing, usually they answer in a few different ways. One is, I'm really busy, right? And oftentimes that means I'm stressed. Man, life is just tricky right now and I'm in a tough spot. Or they give you the blasé answer of just like, oh, I'm good, right? Really? Good? What does that even mean, right? So what are we talking about? How many people are experiencing it? We say 75% of adults report experiencing moderate to high levels of stress. 3 out of 4. That's a lot of people. Everybody around you, you take 3 out of 4 of them and you go, man, you're experiencing some high levels of stress. That's a tough spot to be in. This one made me laugh a little bit. Compared to other countries, 2022 data from Gallup shows that Afghanistan currently has the highest reported stress level, and the US is not too far behind. Think about the situation that Afghanistan is in with the Taliban and all the stuff they got going on, and the US is only slightly behind them. Come on. We'll talk about why here in just a moment. Around 34% of adults report feeling that stress is completely overwhelming for them on most days. When we're talking about overwhelming, we're talking about don't want to get out of bed, cannot function, can't think, can't do anything, and just want to curl up and just lay in bed all day. 34%, 1 out of 3. Isn't that wild? So what can we do about it? We have the pillars of health here that we talk about: nutrition, hydration, movement, sleep, and gratitude. I love this picture because it kind of shows you a lot of those things that you can do about it. Number one, they're eating great food. You can see the fruits and great food, colorful food they have on their little picnic there. They're out in nature. They're connecting as a family. They're with the people they love. They got a soccer ball there. They got some movement going on. You can see a jug of water there or whatever's in there. They're getting their hydration in. Right? Hopefully they had a good rest. With little kids, sometimes I know it's tricky, but it looks like they're having a great time. And man, they're just smiling. They're grateful for the people they're around. We'll talk more about these in a moment and some tools that we have to help you manage these things and kind of judge yourself on where you're at with those pillars of health as well. Dr. Elisa Epel, she's a professor of neurosciences, she said, just as stress can affect nutrition can also affect stress, right? As evidence, Dr. Epel discussed the results of population-based studies that found that dietary patterns emphasizing whole foods were associated with lower depression, anxiety, and stress, whereas a typical Western dietary pattern was associated with a higher risk of poor mental health. Now, when you talk of the West, and anywhere in the world, and they're speaking of the West, they're speaking of us here in the U.S., and it says here that a typical Western dietary pattern was associated with higher risk of poor mental health. No wonder we are struggling. No wonder we are in second place to Afghanistan for reporting the highest levels of stress. We eat terribly around here. And that is why we love what we've got going on here at Soul Naturals with the different products that we have that allow your body to have the tools that it needs to battle the daily stresses that it's under and even battle some of the chronic stress we're seeing as well. So we have a tool we want to show you today. We have this fantastic stress page now that is up on the website. After you log in, it's under Take Our Quiz, and it says, could stress be your number one issue? And you can take the quiz right there, or we can scroll down a little bit. It gives us some of the stats that we talked about earlier, right? 75% of adults feel stressed regularly with anxiety and fatigue as the most common symptoms. 24% of adults experience stress levels above 8 out of 10. Man, come on. 1 out of 3 adults will experience an anxiety disorder at some point in their life. There's a lot of people that are struggling through all of this, right? And we have this great little video as well that we can share, that you can share with others as well to help learn more about how stress can affect us and things that we can do about it. We're going to go ahead and watch that right now. Does life ever feel like it's moving too fast? You are not alone. In today's world, stress has become a silent epidemic, and most health professionals agree that we are facing a health crisis that has the potential to yield serious health and social consequences for years to come. 75% of adults report experiencing moderate to high levels of stress, with most of those reporting that there are aspects of their life that are negatively impacted as a result of this stress. Stress isn't just affecting your mood. Stress impacts your health, your relationships, and even how quickly you age. But how do you define stress? If you're like most people, you would likely list things like tight deadlines, traffic jams, financial commitments, job instability, personal conflicts, health challenges, or economic burdens. And you're right, and all of these factors are legitimate stressors. But stress is more than just mortgage payments, difficult conversations, and struggling to find work-life balance. In fact, you may very well be stressing out your body and mind more than you know. The hidden stressors can often be the most detrimental. Things like poor nutrition and diet, imbalanced exercise programs, lack of sleep, not drinking enough water, having a negative mindset, and a lack of social connection. These unhealthy habits that have become a trademark of the modern lifestyle result in an accumulation of chronic stress that can activate the stress response, throwing your body into overdrive, putting constant pressure on your nervous system, leading to hormone imbalance, and contributing to common complaints like weight gain, low energy, digestive issues, anxiety, high blood pressure, depression, sugar cravings, headaches, skin challenges, low sex drive, and much, much more. When the body has to constantly rebalance itself, it's like working overtime, which is why we define stress as anything that makes your body work overtime. But there is good news. You have the power to take control. Research shows that once a cumulative burden of these stressors is reduced through supplementation and lifestyle behaviors, you increase the odds of seeing positive results in your physical and mental health. increasing productivity, and your body and mind will be better equipped to manage the physical, emotional, and mental stress that life might be throwing at you. You can build resilience against stress and live a healthier, happier life. The first step, understand your personal stress resilience score. Take our free stress resiliency quiz today. In just a few minutes, you'll get personalized recommendations to help you manage stress better and improve your well-being, physically, emotionally, and mentally. Don't wait. The path to a more balanced life starts now. Take your quiz today. You deserve to live your best life. Awesome. As you can see, that video is packed with information that you're going to be able to share with others to get them in a good spot. And then the cool thing about that call to action at the end, that allows anybody to understand where they're at with their stress resiliency. It gives you a tool to help others, which is such a cool thing. And there's, as we mentioned before, there are so many people who are struggling with this right now, where their body is just working overtime, right? Stress is anything that causes our body to work overtime. And we want to be able to complete those stress cycles so our bodies can kind of purge a little bit and put us back in a good spot. Now, the thing I love about this stress quiz for anybody, whether you're a customer or somebody who's trying to build a business, is you have an opportunity to understand exactly where you're at and then track it throughout time. You can take this quiz as often as you want, and you're able to put yourself in a position to know exactly where you're growing, where you're struggling, and also what you can do to improve in your health. It also includes some really helpful tools, such as our lifestyle guide that talks about those different pillars of health and allows you to daily keep track of those things to make sure you are in the spot that will allow you to grow and to benefit the most from the tools that we have. And these are all easy to share. That's what's so great about it. You don't have to rethink it. You don't have to come up with new stuff all the time. That would be stressful, right? But this is the hard work's already been done for you. Now you can just share it and help people find it. And so with this, there's more information here. We talk about the top causes of stress. Is hidden stress holding you back? What it's looking like in your life, right? What does it look like when our stress response is activated, as we were just talking about? The toll it takes on our mind and our body, and it goes through and names all these different things. Nervous system, cognitive function, neurotransmitters, the gastrointestinal system, the immune system, reproductive system, and on and on. And then we also have some great ideas on how we can protect against the negative effects of chronic stress. And again, the call to action to take the quiz, find out more about where you're at. Has some great links, like I mentioned before, to the lifestyle guide, which is just a fantastic tool to use. And the best part about this is super easy to share, as I mentioned before. Anybody can share this and find out the tools. And it's available in Spanish right now, including that video. With the help of AI, you'll be able to hear me speaking Spanish through that video. So it's in a great spot right now. So be able to share that with as many people as you can. And together we'll be able to battle stress and help others to put themselves in a better position, have the tools they need to take back control of their life and not let stress them out and put them in a bad spot.
Yeah. Awesome, Jordan. Such good information. I liked, when you showed there was a couple different types of stress and that acute stress can be good or bad.
Yep.
And we kind of get excited about some things that, to me, if I have a deadline or something and a project that I'm working on, and it's a tight deadline and there's a lot of energy going into it, I really get kind of a high from that.
Yeah.
And then then once I, like you said, complete the cycle and it's over and whatever, then I'm fine and my body can reset, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I think sometimes what we do is also, like you mentioned, people who are always late, they're trying to get their kids ready and whatever every morning, and they don't get up in time to get all that done. And so they're putting themselves in these episodes, in these situations where, yes, it's momentary stress, but if you do that too many times over and over again, then you create chronic stress out of that.
Yep.
So I think we have to be careful about doing that to ourselves, even though sometimes that's really kind of interesting, kind of gives you a little bit of a high. the
Yep.
dopamine and whatever that you get from that.
Yep, that adrenaline hit.
Yeah. I also, you talked about nutrition affecting stress.
Yeah.
And stress affecting nutrition. We can't uptake the nutrients as well when our body's all stressed.
Yep.
And if we're not giving ourselves the nutrition, it makes us more stressed. And one thing that we have that helps with that are adaptogens.
Absolutely.
They're built to, or not built, but they're in nature, and they do that very thing in our bodies. They balance us out, create a non-stress atmosphere in our body.
Yeah, they allow our bodies just to have the nutrition it needs to naturally balance out and handle all the stresses that come into our lives. Because the thing is, you can't avoid stress. There's always going to be something that's causing stress in our lives. And so it's not so much about avoiding it as it is becoming resilient to it so we can battle through it and live a better life.
Yeah, and I think closing that cycle is, trying to keep that chronic stress from becoming chronic stress, and giving ourselves the nutrition allows us to close more cycles, I think.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. I like that you listed some of the symptoms of stress, because I think sometimes we don't realize that we are under chronic stress. Of course, we've felt stress and whatever in our lives, and we've recognized that. I fall into this sometimes. I find that if I'm not really paying attention, I don't realize that I'm under all this stress. My body is in chronic stress, and that if I'm not paying attention to it and doing the things I need, like nutrition and hydration and all those things, then my body starts to really break down and feel that.
Yep, absolutely. And that's the thing. Most people a lot of these things manifest themselves, and you just don't even know what's going on with it. You just feel off, and you're in that chronic stress state for so long, you forget what it even feels like to feel good, which makes it a really tricky situation to be in.
I also love that you answer the question, where do we start with stress? And the first place to start is understanding what your stress situation is. And with the quiz, you can find that out. It'll give you different categories and your score in those different categories of how well you're responding to stress in those categories, and then you can focus on those things with some intent and with some knowledge behind that. And it'll also give you some recommendations for products that you could take that will help you in your endeavors with that.
Absolutely.
And then you get to take it over and over again to track your progress, to see how you're doing over time. You might think, oh, I'm fine now, and then you go take it again. You go, oh, wait, that's right, I am struggling with that, and so maybe I need to focus on that particular thing.
Yep, absolutely. And
that.
as Jeleva says, young children are even battling this type of stress, right? Oh, yeah. And a lot of times it's the nutrition that we're feeding them that puts them in that bad spot. If they're drinking sodas all the time, high levels of sugar all the time, lots of carbohydrates, not enough protein, they're not getting the exercise they need, they're just doing all the screen stuff, man, you just put them in a bad spot to even battle it themselves, right? And so that's what I love about what we have here going on here at Solle Naturals is the plants take care of it. The adaptogenic herbs are great for everybody, right? And as that doctor said, the whole plants, right? And that's what we really focus on here at Solle. It's available to give everybody the nutrition they need to really battle the daily stresses they're under.
Well, that is so fantastic, Jordan. Thanks for spending some time with us and helping us understand stress better tonight.
Yep.
If you haven't taken the quiz, I so recommend that you do that you go to the website. If you're a customer already, you can log in and take that quiz right under that heading, take our quiz. If you're new to Solle and haven't joined yet, you can get with the person who has talked to you, has brought you into Solle, and they'll give you their link to take that quiz so you can get started doing that. Yeah, I would definitely recommend taking that, starting there and finding out where you lie with all those things.
Absolutely.
So thanks for joining us tonight. I hope that you've learned as much as I have learned today about stress. And we'll see you next time on Why Solle Works.
Bye-bye.